Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Yeah. You can always use the chat on the side here. Can you hear me? At least I know that it's working. Or you can give a like as well. So if you can hear me, and if it's all working, we're going to start speaking soon. I have everything prepared here for us. Hi, Leah. Hi, Caitlin, Thomas, Marie. How you guys doing? Hi, Kieran, Stewart, a lot of you. That's great. Hi, Carlos. So how you guys doing? Are you all okay? All healthy and safe? Yeah. Hi, Danielle, Matilde, Amy, Stacy. Awesome. Awesome that you're all joining us. Hi, Kira. Good. I was leaving a mustache, a goatee, but I decided to shave and just keep it more tidy for you today. Well done, Carlos. Keep doing the assessment. Still have a month to go, so the deadline is, I think, 24th of April. So 4 weeks to go, lots of time. And today I'll be talking a little bit about that at the end. So hopefully it will help as well. Hi, Sarah. So I hope you guys are okay. Have you seen that the Olympic Games is postponed as well? So quite an interesting news. Well, lots of news coming regarding to events. Hi, Emma. So we'll just start very soon, okay? So I have a whole structure here for us to talk about. So it will be a bit more structured. So I'm just waiting, giving some time for people who are just arriving or joining us just now, okay? So, hi, Megan. Hello, Laurian. Good. So I'll be talking today a little bit, obviously, about the topic today in terms of music and multipurpose venues. And I will also speak a little bit about the next few weeks and the two topics that we still need to cover, which is weddings and wedding venues and also unusual venues. And I'll also talk a little bit about the assessment at the end. So hopefully we'll try to cover all. So we'll start with overall talking a little bit about the concepts and multipurpose. I have uploaded PowerPoint there. So hi, Lucy. How, Noemi? So hi, Ilse. So I will speak a little bit about that. Carlos, I'll speak a little bit about at the end also about the marking criteria, okay? But yeah, so obviously, the marking criteria is the marking criteria, so it's difficult to, the concept of flexibility in marking criteria doesn't really work like that. We can be flexible in other things in terms of support and extensions, as you've seen. In terms of the marking criteria, is the marking criteria. The work that you submit will be marked. But I'll be here to try to, give as much support as I can. Hi, Elena. So are you guys all okay? Yeah. Is that most of you back in France now, the French team? Or are you all sticking around Glasgow, Paisley area? We, Amy. So I hope you guys safe there, right? I hope Mr. Macron is looking after you guys and keeping you safe. Great, good. Okay, it's just 2 o'clock. I'll give you another 2 minutes and then we'll start talking about, okay? There's 46 of you, so it's a good number. 45, we just lost someone. So, good. Hi, Leah. So glad that you guys there. Hope you guys with your families and people that you love. It's obviously very uncertain times. I was saying to friends that We are expecting a baby here in a couple of weeks, so it is very tense for us. Obviously, if I catch coronavirus, I won't be able to be at the hospital with my wife and see the baby. So it's quite anxious times for all of us. But we're trying our best, and it's being remarkable, the support from students and the staff to help each other. And I think that's the most important thing in terms of this time of crisis, is how we support each other and how we look after each other. So yeah, I hope you guys doing the same. Okay, so let's start to have a chat then about concerts. And hi, Morgan, welcome. So let's start to have a chat about concerts and multi-purpose venues. So I've put a PowerPoint, some slides there with some voiceover, so you can listen to the comments that I'm making there as well in each slide, and some points that I'm making, most of them based on some of the papers that are available for you on Moodle. So again, it's important for you to read. You access, and you have access to these papers, and you have access to the material there. So it's important to have a look and use those papers to learn as much as you can, and have a look at the slides and the points I'm making. So obviously, when you think about concerts and music, basically, right, when you're talking about today is the main concept is music. Music has been part of societies for many, many years. So, it's like idea of concerts is not new, right? And the concept of concert venues is not new as well. But there is a trend in terms of how cities are changing and how places are changing and how we understand the meanings of those venues. So, and I make the point there about the transition between what was Glasgow before the Hydro and what was Glasgow became after the Hydro. But there are other examples. So the place where I did my PhD in New Zealand, for example, they never hosted any large concert. They didn't have the structure. They had a rugby stadium, quite big, called Carisbrook in Dunedin. But it was one of those industrial stadiums, all open and wasn't really, almost not even appropriate for sport. So what they decided to do there, in partnership with the university there and some other businesses around the city, was to demolish that stadium and rebuild a new stadium, multi-purpose stadium, next to the university that was fully covered. And that really transformed the whole events industry in the city. And it's a city that's not too big. I think it's 100,000 people. So it's not a very large city, but it's a small city in the south of New Zealand. And the interesting thing is, like, from there on, they start to host some mega names in music. So they just had Queen, they had Rod Stewart, they had Ed Sheeran, they had Elton John. So they just attracting all these big names for concerts, and because they now have the infrastructure of a fully covered stadium inside the city, and is being a great catalyst for those type of income, but also to put the city on the map of the events industry. So if you look to the city of Dunedin and you look to the stadium there and how it's been catalyst, it's been very, very significant. And I know people from all over New Zealand would now fly to Dunedin because of the concerts, because it can host the concerts. Before that, obviously, most of the main concerts were on the North Island, mostly in Auckland and Wellington. So you now start to see a lot of these big names. If they go to Australia and New Zealand, they would also put Dunedin, a small town in the South Island of New Zealand, and visit them. And that's because obviously they have the venue, they have this multi-purpose venue that is mostly for rugby, but is attracting a significant number of concerts as well. Taking that back to Brazil, for example, my football team in Brazil did the same. They did a partnership with an organization, and the organization built the stadium for them. And for the next 30 years, the organization can commercialize the stadium for concerts and events. So for the next 30 years, they have the football matches that schedule and have priority, but all the other time they can schedule X amount of events in the stadium. And again, bringing a lot of big concerts to the Palmeiras football stadium in São Paulo. Now, we saw a huge transformation that in Glasgow as well. So obviously, the Scottish Event Campus and the SECC, the conference center, were the beginning and the catalyst of changing that area around Finiston. But the Hydro took a different level. And the level it took was the fact that it really offered a space for concerts, but also for other types of events that the convention center was not really ideal. So if any of you have been to the SEC for concerts inside, will know that the acoustic wasn't great. Some events such as Cirque du Soleil would struggle because of the height of the ceiling. So they would struggle with some of the parts of their shows because it wasn't high enough. And then bringing that and creating the Hydro as a multi-purpose venue will end up solving a lot of those problems. So these big spaces are good. They attract big names. They generate a lot of money. They generate a lot of business. But one of the criticism is that they don't really help to develop cultural capital and doesn't help to develop a cultural agenda in the city, because these people come, do their concerts, do their gigs, and go without leaving much other than a great night of excitement and so on. And in that scenario, other small venues would play a significant role, and that's what is the case of King Tut's, who is used not only as a venue, but as a platform to new artists, to culture, to new types of music, to experimental type of music. So the small venues are extremely important, and we need to take care of them because they are the spaces that would give the opportunity to these new groups and new music and new cultural elements that we have. So it is important that when a city is thinking about a cultural plan, that they do have alternatives, and they have a range of venues that can offer concerts and music that are not only big stadiums, big venues, big multi-purpose, and new built ones. Okay? Plus, there is also the thing that a lot of people are looking to those more unique moments and situations and music that are important. So a lot of people would see, for example, if you see on Sky, and if you have Sky and you watch the artists dance that they have on Sky Arts, you'd see that a lot of these big artists would try to sing in small, intimate venues that would give or increase the experience of attendees. And that's interesting because while I was thinking about the class today and the topic today, you can clearly see a link between the different venues. So you do have, for example, unusual venues that would become music venues, or unusual venues that would become wedding venues, or unusual venues that would become conference venues, right? Or conference venues that would become wedding venues, or wedding venues that would become business venues, and so on. So you have all these mixes between types of venues and their use. And the reason for that is basically economies of scale, where in the same space you can actually provide different types of events and capitalize on that and actually make money to make your venue feasible and sustainable. So thinking about that, it is important for us to think about why would we want to have a venue, what are the characteristics of that venue, and then how can we shape those that venue. Hi, Adriana, not a problem, just welcome. Carlos, I'll get back to your question later on, okay? So thinking about those venues, it is quite important in terms of public policy and the city. But it's also important in terms of how you shape and how you design those venues. So I've put some photos of different designs inside those venues. So you can see, for example, at the Hydro, a couple of years ago, we managed to do a partnership with people from Mobile Awards, and we took a lot of students to volunteer on the day and work on the day. And it was very, very interesting to see tables on the floor of the hydro and how it was all set up, and all the dressing to host an award ceremony inside the hydro. But again, as I said to you, if you go to the hydro and you go and see Cirque du Soleil, or if you go and see Disney on Ice, or any of these other types of events, there's still a good possibility that they can actually design a lot of things, but you're still inside the hydro. And I think we had this discussion before. When you go there, you go to the hydro to watch an event, right? So that's a bit different when you're thinking about the Christmas market. Right? You're going to the Christmas market, you're not really going to George Square, and that's meaning of attending events is quite an important thing as well to discuss. So a lot of people, a lot of event managers would want their attendees to be immersed on that environment and actually almost mix with the concepts that have been designed for that event and really enhance that experience. So it is really worth to think about that. I know a lot of cities are investing millions and millions of pounds on creating these big new structures. They are important. They have their role. They also have some problems, some issues, and so on. I have asked Lindsay, which is one of our former students who works at the SAC, to record an audio. She couldn't do it yesterday, but she said that she will do today. And as soon as she records that audio, I will post on Moodle as well for you to have a look. And I asked her to talk a little bit about her role as a venue manager at the SAC and what are the tasks that she needs to do. And so I obviously work quite closely with Lindsay, and she comes and do some teaching for us, and we take students quite often to see the hydro. And it's interesting to see because a lot of her work is also protecting the venue, protecting the characteristics of the venue. And I think we saw a little bit like that on the Emirates Arena in terms of how the Glasgow Rocks gets frustrated because the venue managers of the Emirates Arena protect the venue against any appropriate branding or inappropriate exposures and the priorities they have. So the hydro is not very different. So Lindsay works very close with producers from large concerts like Beyonce or Justin Timberlake or any of these big names that would come to the hydro in order to provide the things that they need for delivering the experience that they designed and planned, but also to adjust and adapt things so the venue is not exposed. Right? So we've seen recently that there was a leaking on the ceiling of the hydro that they had to cancel an event there, and the problem that created in terms of people talking about that. It was on the news, it was on social media, talking about how bad they were in communicating with the attendees, how they couldn't fix, how can you have a problem like that in a venue like the hydro. So obviously they are extremely exposed because of the size of their venue. They're extremely exposed because of the size of the acts they bring. So they really need to be careful with everything that happens there, so they don't get backlashed online or on the news or so on. So a lot of the role of the venue manager in that aspect is to provide and solve problems for producers. So sometimes the producers will want an extra meter of staging, but that's not feasible because if you add another meter of stage, you're going to lose views on the sides. So then you're going to lose income, you lose tickets. So there's a lot of things that need to be discussed with the producers to see if they can accommodate the stage the size it is, or if they need to do any modifications to host the event, but also maximize the potential of the venue. And the other interesting thing is, like when you speak to people from Hydro, for example, they would, and not only Hydro, but if you speak to people from any venue that hosts a significant number of music concerts, is that they would have lots of events planned for the next year, so on, and they need to have those multitasking skills to be able to understand, remember what one producer wants, what the other producer wants, what type of licensing they need, what type of work with stakeholders like police or ambulance they will need, and so on. So it can be quite intense. There is always a team supporting them in terms of legal stuff, but it can be quite a multitasking working for these multi-purpose venues. So another interesting thing that I thought was from the paper, and it's quite an interesting thing is like how you strategically plan who's playing at your venue, right? So when you think about Kingstuds and how they can attract people to from the city or from the region or from the country to come and play and support others in order to enhance ticket sales. So it's all the combination in terms of programming and how you do programming these smaller venues to make sure that you can use the people who will attract a little bit more sales, but also to enhance as a platform for these people to know new acts that have potential and so on. So it's how you actually manage the programming of music is a quite an important element as well, and how you help these new upcoming artists to promote themselves. Obviously nowadays with Spotify and Apple Music, and there's so many online tools that can be used that a lot of these artists will use by themselves, but the programming of venues would help them a lot with that as well. Good. So as I said to you, there is a lot of information then on the Moodle and on the different slides. There is the papers that I would like you to read, and you can also feel free to ask me questions here for the next half an hour or so, while I go through a lot of the other things that we need to talk about. Good. So I think there is a lot of things there about concerts and music venues for you to think about, and how we manage those venues and how you think about those venues and their spaces. So I think it's now up to you to have a look and read and listen to what is on the slides. The second part of our talk today on this live was to think a little bit about the next weeks of the module, right? So basically, there's two other topics that we need to cover. And one of the topics is wedding venues. And I've uploaded now and have all the materials now available for you on Moodle. And I will just need to upload the narrated slides for you on the wedding and on the usual venues. So both of them, they were supposed to be covered on the 13th, I think, of 13th of April. Obviously, I would be in paternity leave on that week, so a new staff would have, in normal situation, that she would come and cover for me. But what I'm gonna do now is to organize the material for those things, have the narrated slides, and maybe do a live with you next week about them as well. I've sent the feedback for all the videos we've seen so far. And tomorrow, I am having a call with Ashley to agree the grades for the videos on concerts and venues that we have for this week. So I've sent the links to you, and I hope you can watch your colleagues and the videos your colleagues submitted and learn from that as well. So again, remember that those videos and listening to those videos is part of your learning. So I would expect you to listen to those videos and learn from them as well. Okay? So I've marked them, Ashley marked them, and tomorrow we're going to have a call to agree the grades, and then hopefully I'll put all together in the feedback form, and I'll send it to the groups that have concerts and multipurpose as their group assessment. So feedback for the concerts hopefully by the end of the week or early next week maximum, but hopefully by Friday. And the material for wedding and unusual venues are starting to populate or appear on Moodle, and you can have access, and I'll organize a final live with you guys discussing those two types of events and venues. Okay? So please keep looking on Moodle, keep reading, keep watching the videos I'm uploading. As I said to you via email, there's a lot about your proactive approach towards your learning. If we need to make these online activities be relevant and significant for you all. Final thing that I want to spend now probably 15 or 20 minutes on is your assessment. So I've been getting a lot of emails about assessment, and so first of all, you know that you still have a whole month, you still have 4 weeks to submit the assessment. So you do have until the 24th of April to submit via Turnitin, via Moodle, so you do have lots of time. However, you also seen that the university said that if you need an extension to up to 10 days because of the disruption of coronavirus, you can get that. So you can submit your assessment until the 4th of May with that 10 days extension. So I would encourage you to try to submit by the 24th. But if you need a little bit more time, you can have those 10 days that the university is offering until the 4th of May. Okay, so the 4th of May, it is the extension of 10 days that the university is offering because of coronavirus, but the deadline is 24th of April. Okay, yeah. As you can see, Carlos is putting messages here. You can also add questions if you have. I'm going to try to talk about all the points that I made here on my list, and then I'm going to go and try to answer the questions, okay, if I haven't answered already. Okay. So a couple of other things about the assessment. There is a section on your Moodle called, let me check here, called Student Support area. There are videos and links there on how you write, how you reference, how you structure. There's a lot of information there. And again, I would expect you to go there and have a look on writing style, referencing style, and things like that. There is no excuse to after come to sign, oh, I didn't know that was the reference style. I didn't know that I had to use literature, or I didn't know I had to write this way or so. So go back to your Moodle, have a look on the student support area, and there's links there, and there's videos about writing style and referencing style for you all. Okay. And again, so references, it is part of your work. Unfortunately, if you submit a report without academic references, without support for academic references, you will not pass the module. It's a level 9 module, it's a third year, and at university, we would expect that a third year student would engage with academic literature. There is a lot of literature available on Moodle. There is even more academic literature available on Scholar, right? So make sure that you access the academic literature and use that academic literature to support your points. Okay? So writing style and referencing style. In terms of the structure of the report, okay, you need an introduction, right? You do need a conclusion. So you need an introduction and you need a conclusion. What goes in the middle? 3 different sections you can have, and I will suggest you to have. 1, presentation of the venue, and the third one is the discussion of attendee experience on that event or venue. These are the 3 key areas you have, right? The presentation of the venue, the discussion of the event manager or the venue manager, and the discussion of the attendee experience on that event or on that venue. Okay? So, in theory, you have 5 sections. Introduction, presentation of the venue, discussion of the role of the event or venue manager, and discussion of the attendee experience on that venue or event, and finally, a conclusion. Okay? So, structure, writing style, and referencing style. Writing style, I would suggest you to not use first person. There is no need to use first person, and I'm not asking you to do a reflective assessment, really. So you can use, but you need, if you want, be careful and be consistent. Okay? But I would suggest you to avoid using, because sometimes people start to write in first person, and then they mess up and they forget to use first person, and they use we, and then they use I, and then it gets a mess. So when you write, right? When you write your report, try to be consistent on how you're writing, the tone you're writing, and the way you're writing, right? So again, I would recommend you to not use. It's not a big deal. If you decide to use first person, then be consistent. Okay. What else I have here? Okay. Something else that I have here. People sometimes ask me about number of words. I am not super strict about the number of words you have in your assessment, right? But as I said before, I have 150 students. If every one of you writes 1,000 words more, I will have 150,000 words more, and that will become very difficult to manage. Okay, so I would suggest that I think don't go over 10%, okay, or don't go over 15% if you need, right? There is no need. You can be quite precise. You can be direct to the point with 1,000 words. Okay? In these 1,000 words, how I would divide them? I would have maybe 70 words for introduction, a short introduction. I would have about 200 words for your presentation of the venue. I will have about 300, 350 words for the discussion of the role and event manager. I'll have another 300, 350 words for your discussion of the attendee experience. And I'll have another conclusion, 50 words, 70 words. Short, sharp, direct. Okay? Your reference list does not count to your word count. The only thing that counts is your body. Okay? 1,000 words in your body. Don't count table of contents. You need a table of contents. Doesn't count the cover page, doesn't count your reference list. Okay? Just the content, 1,000 words. Okay? Do you need to use academic references? Yes, and I would expect to use significant numbers of them, right? And what I am saying significant is a third-year module. It is expected to have a way better engagement with the academic literature. There's a lot of papers that I made available for you that you should be reading and engaging with them. What does that mean? That when you're writing your report, right, you are making paragraphs, you're making statements that need to be discussed and needs to be supported. Okay, and in this supporting these paragraphs and these concepts, you use academic literature to support. Okay. Good. I think that's it. I'm gonna try to answer some of the questions now. Going back to Carlos here. Carlos, about SAS, I don't know. There is the university funding team. If you want to have a look in terms of funding, you can look to them and maybe mail them. I think the SAS, I think is the most in terms of funding. I don't know much. Okay. Few questions from Carlos here. Do we need a table of contents, or do you want it as structured like an essay? Yep, you have a table of contents, and then you have headings and subheadings and structured. Okay, so table of contents, 1.0 introduction, 2.0 presentation of the venue, 3.0 discussion of the role of event manager, 4.0 discussion of attendee experience, 5.0 conclusion. Okay. Second question, do we need to base the event venue on the chosen for our video presentation? No, you don't need to use any of the venues or events you use on your video. If you want to use something else, you can. Okay. They are not, they don't need to be connected. If you want to use the same, fine. If you want to use different ones, it's okay as well. Third question from Carlos here. The role of the venue manager, is that a general discussion of the role itself, or the manager's or of the manager in that particular place? It is about that particular place. Everything's about the venue or the event you're talking about. Okay, so you can talk about what skills they need to have, what tasks they need to think about, how they need to think about their the design of the event, what are the key elements that they need to think about. Or, no, you can think about the role of them inside that context. Okay. Same for that in the experience discussion. Again, it's about the event or the venue you are discussing. So it's all connected. It's all about the venue or the event you are discussing, all connected. So it's not a general thing. Do we need a recommendation in our conclusion? No, you don't need a recommendation. Recommendation is not what I'm asking for. I want you to just, the main part for me is you to reflect about the role of the event manager, to reflect about the experience and how the attendee experience is shaped or created on that context. Okay. More questions. Let's see here. So Carlos, recommendations I asked are answered already. You don't need to. Tom, we have to choose between an event or a venue. Yes, I would suggest or you go for an event or you go for a venue. Okay. Obviously, an event happens inside the venue, but if you are considering the event, you are talking about the event manager, not necessarily the venue manager. And if you're talking about an event, you're talking about an event, the attendee experience specifically about that event. Okay. What font do you want us to use? Well, that's, use Arial or Times New Roman, size 12, something sensible. It doesn't really bother me, right? But yeah, just use Arial or Verdana or Times New Roman. Can you please explain what we should be discussing in the attendee experience paragraph? Megan, so the attendee experience paragraph, right? So let's say that you attended the Justin Bieber concert, right? So as you know, the attendee experience would have elements, right? That goes from the moment you hear about the event, time you decide to purchase the ticket, the moment you arrive on the venue, the experience you have inside, all the elements of the experience, the sound, the food, the drinks, the engagement with people, right? The moment you come after. So all these different elements are important in the attendee experience. So again, my suggestion to you in terms of attendee experience is go and have a look on the literature about attendee experience. There is lots of literature on published on attendee experience. And then you can use those elements of attendee experience to make the discussion about your event or your venue. Okay. So hopefully it's clear, but always, if you want to ask more questions, you can always ask here. Okay. Marie, do we need to choose an event venue where we went to? Well, again, not necessarily. It may help you to think about your own experience on that as an attendee of that event or venue, but no, you don't need to have been there to discuss about. Okay. Can you have an appendix section, Stuart? Yeah, definitely. You can have an appendix section. You can have images. You can have the map of the venue. You can have whatever it helps to explain. The only thing I would say about appendix is if you have an appendix, I would hope that inside your text, you're making reference to that appendix. It's not something just hanging there, right? So if you have an appendix, you can have, you're welcome to have, does not count for your word count, right? But in the text, you need to make reference to this appendix. If not, there's no point to have it, okay? Do we have to, Adriana, do we have to choose an event or a venue in Glasgow, or it can be from anywhere in the world? It can be anywhere. It doesn't need to be in Glasgow. It can be any venue or event you want, okay? If we have organized an event, can we talk about it? Yeah, why not? You can talk about it. As I said before, you can use reflective, I or we. Be careful with how you use, but again, be careful also to not only be descriptive, telling what you've done. The whole report is not only about to describe the experience, to describe the role, it's to discuss. And that involves engagement with academic literature, explaining, discussing the meaning supported by literature or by data or by other type of information. Okay? Candice, no, that was Candice. Lauriane, yes, can we talk about our own event that we organize? Well, yeah, as I said, you can. Just be careful. Again, be careful to not describe. It's not only about telling me how the event was and how great it was and what you've done, right? It's about discussing the event. It's about discussing how the attendee experience was and how the literature supports that or not, how the venue was and the characteristics of the venue compared to what the literature says and so on. Okay? So be careful to not submitting descriptive pieces of work. I'm not asking you to describe an event or describe a venue. I'm asking you to discuss them, supported by academic literature. I'm asking you to discuss them, supported in theory. I'm asking you to be critical about what happened. Carlos, do we need to gather information from websites, or do we expect us to approach the venue or event manager? So I had that question asked by a couple of people. There's two things, right? I personally don't think you need information from the venue. I don't think it helps you. I think it will detract you from the narrative, right? If you want to use, you can use. And I'm not the type of say, don't do it. I think there's a couple of things. Data collection should follow ethical guidelines, ethical procedures. So if you wanted to collect data with these people, you should have done ethics and so on. But if you have information from the people, you can use it, right? Just be careful to not go completely sideways in terms of talking, presenting an interview or presenting information from these people, and not using academic literature to support the points. Okay? I'm going to go back to the idea of, yes, you can use some of this material you collected, but it is important that everything you do and everything you discuss, it is critical, and you use referencing literature to support these points you're discussing. Okay. Megan, thanks, Sandro. You're welcome, Megan. Adriana, thank you. You're welcome. Do we have to stick with the groups you allocated us in, like sport? Or, no, you can do, Sarah, you can do in any venue or any event. Okay? Doesn't need to be on the topics that you had the groups on. That was one assessment. This is a different assessment. Okay. So I hope this is clear. Let me see if there is any other question. Have I missed any questions? Is there any other questions that you guys have? Okay. I know, Kira, I know you had asked me questions about using data from the SEC and the Hydra and the people that you spoke about. So it's the same, right? So you can use if you want, but be careful to not become just a descriptive narrative from what people told you. Yeah, you can use them, you can embed them. You don't need to reference them. I know you asked that, so you can just put quotation marks, what people said, but manager of venue, right? So don't give the name. I don't want you to tell me the name. It should be anonymous if this information comes to you. So please do not name the people that gave you the information. But be careful, because when you do adding things like that, it's very easy to be absorbed by those type of things and forgetting actually the lack of space you have, because it's only 1,000 words. So be careful on how you use those things, okay? Josephine, that's a good question, right? The difference between the event or venue manager. So I think we've been discussing that before. The venue manager sometimes is there to protect the venue, defend the venue, and align the venue to the promoter or to the event manager. So sometimes you have an event manager, so you will expect someone like U2 to have their concert manager, someone who will design the concert and produce the concert, their event manager. And then you would have the venue manager, such as Lindsay, that works at the SEC, that would help to accommodate that event inside the characteristics of the venue and facilitate the things that can be facilitated. And I also say to them, well, we cannot do that here because of this, and that. So it's very different perspectives. One is looking to the event, to the experience in one way. The other one is looking to the concept via the venue lenses. So be careful, they are different roles, and be careful with approach you're taking. In some cases, they are the same. So some cases, obviously, the venue manager is also the event manager. So sometimes you see that in smaller venues, that the people who run the venue are also the people who design, who create the event, and sometimes they merge. but it's not always the case, and that's why I wanted to do the distinction on the assessment brief. Sometimes you have venue and event managers as the same. In some cases, you don't. You have the venue manager, the people who hire the space and help you to maximize the use of that space. And you have the event manager, who is the guy who's designing the experience, designing the concert, designing the show or the entertainment and so on. I hope it's clear. More questions? Guys, it's your chance. If I'm not being clear, ask me and I'll try to clarify, okay? So one of important thing right here, it's 1,000 words, right, guys? So it is not a lot of room. So you need to be quite precise, quite strict in terms of the points you are making. I usually tell the students, in a paragraph, you have 3 elements. You have a point that you are making, you have how you discuss that point, and you have the support engagement with the literature. So always think about, a paragraph as the point, the discussion, the meaning, and the support. Okay. Rebecca, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I'm here to help, right? We are here to help you guys to learn, to think, to develop. The grades are the grades and the submissions are the submission. But for me, if you learn something, that's the most important thing. So I hope you're also learning from experience, learning from doing the assessment, looking to the resources. If not, my work has no meaning. Okay. Carlos, I cannot upload a sample from last year, and the reason for that is the first year we run this module. So I hope you guys do very well, have some excellent ones, so next year I can show them the sample. But it's the first time, I think I mentioned that early in the module, that this module was designed for 35 people, and it took a lot of work to adjust it to 150 people, as you can imagine. So I do hope that you guys can do some excellent work and I can show to next year's students. So I'm sorry about that. More questions? Thank you, Lara. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm some boy. I wish I was a boy, but I feel a bit older for that. I know, Caitlin, I know it's been very difficult for a lot of people to, to organize themselves. Believe me, I have a 4-year-old running around the house somewhere. It's just been hiding from you guys. It's been difficult for us as well. But again, I think if we support each other and if we put in our mind that, we're here to try to learn and develop, then we can support each other. So hopefully we can adjust through these times. It's a difficult time for everyone. Danielle, yeah. So I think I did last week as well. So hopefully when I finish the live, I get the link, and then I'll upload the link on Moodle as well, and you can have a look again. Okay. There was something else that someone sent to me that was important for me to mention. I got one of the students sent me the report for me to have a look. Right now, guys, I have 150 students. Right, I won't be able to give detailed feedback in each report, right? So I will try my best to answer questions or give support as much as I can, but it's really difficult. If you imagine you 150 students and you have to have a look on the drafts of each of you, that will not be feasible considering everything else I do. I'm not doing only this module. I have other modules that I'm helping. I have staff to manage and lots of other things. So I'm sorry if I don't give detailed feedback in each assessment. But I can answer as many questions as you want. Carlos, very kind of you. I actually enjoyed the module as well. It was sometimes hard to deal with 150 you talking at the same time in class, but I think at the end, as I hope, is that you guys learned something and it was useful. Okay, I'll give you another couple of minutes to see if there's any questions that you can reflect and ask. Make the most now. And I'm missing you guys, honestly. I know sometimes I lost my patience with you all talking in class, but I do miss to be in class and have like the face-to-face part as well, to be honest. Yeah, Carlos, the assessment, the Turnitin is open, so you can submit at any point, and you can actually replace your assessment once. So if you submit now and you're not happy, and in 2 weeks' time you want to replace, I think there's one chance that you can actually replace it, delete and replace. But it's open, you can submit at any time. Okay, I think from the 24th of April it closes, and then we're going to start to mark from there. Okay. Any more questions? No, you're happy? So it was lovely again to do this live today with you guys. I hope you guys are well. I hope your family is well. I hope your friends are well. Look after each other. Be kind to each other. Okay. Yeah, hopefully in maybe 12 weeks or 11 weeks, hopefully things will be much better. And for the students who are back in France, it was a pleasure to have you guys in class. But again, I will do another live maybe next week before I go into paternity leave to discuss weddings and unusual venues. And again, if next week you have more questions about assessment, you can always ask. Okay, okay, last questions here. Carlos, similarity, it is well, you know, if you copied things from internet or not. Usually high similarities over 20% would call our attention. Sometimes it's nothing, but yeah, you need to be careful in terms of similarities. Just avoid plagiarizing, just avoid copying and pasting. You know, but you can use assessments and things like that. So just be careful. It is just there for you to reflect in terms of things that can be caught. So yeah, so anything that is over 20-25%, you need to be kind of careful and make sure that you haven't, by mistake, just copy and pasted and become a plagiarism case. Okay. Chris Chambers, how are you, Chris? You okay? When discussing the venue, is it like the background or overview similar to the video presentation? Yeah, when you're talking about the venue, the presentation of the venue, you can talk about the characteristics of the venue, you can talk about where is the geography, the capacity, types of event it hosts. Yeah, it is about profiling the venue basically. Okay, so similar-ish to what you guys done on the video. And on that section of the report, for example, you could use the websites of the venue to support you. You don't necessarily need to use academic literature on that specific section. On the other sections, on the discussion of role of event manager, I would expect you to engage with academic literature. And on the discussion of attendee experience, I would definitely expect you to engage with academic literature. On the presentation of the venue, it's just a presentation. You can use the websites and other type of information you have about the venue. Okay. Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Gonna come say hi to people here. Come say hi. Don't see you. Okay. Say hi to people. Say hi, people. You? No? Okay. Gonna wash your hands then. I hope was clear, Chris. Yeah, direct quoting, Carlos. Quotation marks, surname, year, and page number. Okay, quotation marks, the sentence that you did, and then the reference with the surname, year, and page number. So every time you have a direct quote, you add a page number. A lot of information about referencing are on that section I told you on Moodle, okay, about student support. So you can have a look on that. Okay. Great, guys. So I think I'm going to finish this now. We're almost getting to an hour here. Next week, so hopefully next week I will do another one regarding wedding, both wedding and unusual venues. I will do them together. And then again, if you have more questions about assessment, I will be more than happy to answer. Okay. So thank you all. And I hope you stay okay. And I see you all soon, hopefully. Okay. French people, you're always welcome to come back. See you guys.